The caliper bolts are 17 millimeter. The caliper carrier bolts are 19 millimeter. Alright, for some reason this caliper bolt was on fairly tight, so I have to use some PB blaster. Pretty long breaker bar. I don't know, what is this? 25-inch breaker bar to actually crack this one loose. This one down here was fairly easy, so I think somebody just over torqued these. I'll find out the torque specs in a little bit, but take these off as such. I'm not sure why those bolts so hard to remove. It's a pin. The top one isn't. This one is a pin. Which is kind of weird. Must be stuck in there because of all the rust and whatnot. There we go. Yeah, this thing definitely needs to be greased up. Sucked up the thread. But yeah, it's all seized up in there. So whoever the hell did the brakes last time didn't grease this thing up properly. Alright, well, that's your caliper. Just hang this up somewhere on the strut itself for your spring. So we'll just move it out of the way. Now that your caliper is off, you can take off your brake pads. These brake pads suck, you know, they're pretty new. Pretty thick, but they suck. They don't break very well. I don't know what kind of crappy material this is. Also, I don't know, it could be the caliper itself. It looks pretty rusty. Could be the rotors. The rotors don't look like they're, you know, wearing off evenly. I still see rust on the rim of the rotor itself, so it tells me it's not engaging the pad is not engaging the entire rotor itself. Take this off. Well, that's a good sign, you know. The rotor is free. That means I don't have to hammer the crap out of it to remove it. What I did before was I had sprayed some PB blaster around the holes. Sprayed PB blaster into these holes the week before, and I essentially just drove it normally, and that will allow the penetrating oil to separate any rust between the hub itself and the rotor backside, and the heat will also help it loosen up. So as you can see, it's pretty nice and loose right now. I realized why the top caliper bolt was so hard to remove. The reason is because, well, the head completely snapped off. And what I was doing, I was just essentially tearing the head off the bolt itself. Luckily, I was able to get a replacement part pretty quickly. It seems like the caliper bolts itself are two different sizes in length for the same side. I'm trying to look for the other part. There it is. So as you can see, they're completely different. I mean, the head is the same thing, 17 millimeter, same thread, but the shaft is bigger on the silver one than this gold one, and it looks like the larger one that goes on the top right here, somehow it got seized inside, either from rust or whatnot, or just poorly lubricated and water got in and it essentially welded onto itself, and it just would not come out. So if you're, I mean, I didn't do the replacement last time. I think whoever did it didn't lube it up properly. I'm sure this bolt doesn't go in the front, because when I put the boot on, it's pretty much impossible to slide it through. I mean, it's possible, but it's very stiff. But the odd thing is that this side is just way too loose. So I don't think this is for this part. Like it's just really loose inside, and the boot that goes on there is this short type of boot. So I'm gonna lube up this tube, put in the gold bolt, and then lube up the inside of this and push it through. The other thing is that this bottom one is open on both ends, but the one that was stuck inside, this one, is not open on the other end. It's completely closed off, so I couldn't even hammer it out. It's essentially just welded shut on there. And it was so hard to get out that I essentially snapped off this large, almost half-inch bolt. Yeah. If there was even contact between the pads and the rotor, this would not be here. So clearly, even though this was changed last year, it ain't doing shit. I'll grind off this rust here. So my new rotors are power stop rotors with a geovent coating, so it prevents rust. Should work much better than the crap that came with the vehicle. To prevent that seized bolt, I'm going to put some anti-seize on this before reinstalling it. So this way water doesn't get into it and cause the same problem. Get my caliper bracket, goes this way. The caliper bracket bolt is 129 foot-pounds, and the caliper pin bolt is 80 foot-pounds. I got a Hawk LTS brake pads for the front. Lube this whole area up just so the pads can slide around. There's a grease that gets on there. You touch it. Caliper itself. Reinstall the little grommets. put your bolt in, and then the caliper bolt is 80 foot-pounds. 80 foot-pounds for caliper bolts. So before installing the top caliper bolt, I put a crap ton of anti-seize. Alright, on to the rear. The caliper bolt is different from the front. The caliper bolt is 14 millimeter, 14 mils, and the caliper carrier is 17 mil as opposed to 19 on the front. So is the rear rotor, or rear brake. That's 17 millimeters for the caliper carrier or caliper bracket, 14 millimeter for the caliper itself. Nice that Mazda put a hole right here through this bracket to get to the bolt if you ever needed one. But it seems like a short socket works. Yeah, these are pretty new too. I might keep these. Seems like it's engaging the rotor pretty evenly. Same thing with the back.
Yeah, this one's fun though. This is that stick shift. I haven't either, but it's fun.
So the same thing, doesn't really engage the back as much as it does the front. Could be a caliper problem. Again, make sure you lube up the channels up and down. The ears slide into this channel like so. Same thing above, and you just push it in. The rear caliper bracket bolt is 75 foot-pounds, and the rear caliper bolt torque spec is 25 foot-pounds.